this is OATz to go. And before I get into this crazy chapter 201 review of Black Clover, I just wanted to make a quick introduction. I'm a huge anime manga fan, and I wanted to start the channel off with anime manga discussions, reactions, death battles, what ifs, anything. I consider anime and manga my hobbies and one of the few things that actually make me excited, and I absolutely love the community. Further down the line, I'd like to post some music videos and random adventures and really put my passions out there for you guys. I promise to keep this all entertaining and informative, but I need you to drop a like and subscribe so we can support the channel and really get the content that you want. So please make sure you go and like the OATz Instagram page and Facebook page, where I'll be posting and engaging with anyone who follows. The links will be down below. I'm super stoked to be here, and without further ado, let's get into this very first Black Clover discussion. So for those of you who don't read the manga, I want to say now, you're going to want to exit out of this. This will contain spoilers if you're an anime-only viewer. So please leave now. I don't want to see in the comments that you guys are mad at me for ruining things when I clearly gave you the warning that the spoilers were going to be ahead. So we have the devil arriving at the only exit to the outside world. And we didn't get to see the devil last chapter. I thought he was just gone. Sometimes I have to read these, a couple of times because I just get a little lost. So I thought he was just gone into the world already. But apparently he's at the door, and it's funny because in anime and manga, they always like to stop before, they get to the main thing. So if it's like, oh, I'm finally at the door, I can stop instead of going full speed now to say that it's a door. So he gets to the door and he says, the door outside. And, he thinks it's going to be pretty easy, but he gets,
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G.
What the heck is going on? Now, I didn't expect Lick to show up when he did. I knew Lick was going to show up in the series again. They kept, alluding to the fact that he's going to show up somehow, and even with the Wizard King too, and I'm expecting the Wizard King to show up somehow as well. But I didn't expect him to show up right then and now. And I was super excited when I saw Lick, and he even drops the super fresh, super sauce line that we all know and love, which is, "You shall not pass." Pass! Dang it. And it's just the perfect thing to say. And before I get into the next thing, I want to say that the translation, I don't think says "you shall not pass." It says "I won't let you pass" or something to that effect. But I also think this line is in there on purpose as well. Tabata has a way of telling a story to blatantly put out the clues, that leads you to the next logical answer. But he always paints the lie to that logical answer a little differently than most authors would. So there's a lot of Norse mythological references that Tabata uses. And I think this line is in there just to state that, Licht is related to light, Gandalf, the light was, Gandalf of the light, and all that good stuff. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan. But, the reference is there. And I think it's for good reason. I think we're going to see more references like this throughout the series. And if we do, it's going to be so cool. So we have Licht show up, and now the devil and Licht go and face off. And I wanted to point out what the devil says, and we're going to talk a little bit about it and what I think of this. And this is a little bit of headcanon mixed with some evidence that we have. So I'm going to start off by reading here. The devil says to Licht, "Even with your soul becoming unstable after bringing forth that being, I'm surprised you still made it this far." Now, what is he referring to? To me, the answer is pretty obvious, and I take this as confirmation that he thinks that Licht, who's also in a Super Saiyan form over here, by the way, Jesus, man, this guy's epic. He's referring to something that we are all familiar with, because Tabata made sure that in the beginning of every episode we saw it, that this being that he's speaking of is the demon or monster in the beginning scene of every episode. Now, the reason why I think this, I'm actually going to make a separate video to touch on this topic. I think there's enough evidence for us to say this being right here is lit. And the devil somewhat explains it, that his soul became unstable, like we saw Patri's soul become unstable, and he became a dark elf. Now, I have a couple of reasons as to why he turned out like this specifically, but let's just look at the physical similarities for now, and then in the next video I'll go more in depth with it. Let's look at the hair. He's definitely got elven hair. He's got the two long bangs on the front of his face, just like Lick does. And if you look at the face, he's got the markings coming down from his eyes past his cheeks, just like Lick's elven markings. And I think that's a lot to do with Lick. I think that Lick is really this guy, and not just for the physical reasons, but also some other evidence pointed out. Even there's even more further into the chapter near the end where I think they kind of allude to Lick being connected to this specific being. And before I move on, this third eye that the demon has, I think this eye is specific to Lick and Lick only. It's not a demonic trait. Actually, what we've come to know in the show as demonic traits have turned out not to be demonic traits, like Asta's anti-magic. It's not demonic in nature. If it was, we'd see this demon with anti-magic qualities, and he just doesn't. He's actually so imbued with magic that he can speak his magic into existence, where he doesn't even need to use his grimoire in actuality. But that's a whole other video, and I promise I'll get into that, especially if you guys want it. I think it's really interesting to look into that stuff. But on top of me thinking that Lick is this demon, the devil, he doesn't refer to it as a demon. He actually says, bringing forth that being. That being. So it's not a word that you would use to insinuate some sort of familiarity with something, right? He doesn't refer to it as another demon, a fellow demon, and he doesn't refer to it as a dark elf. We know that dark elves exist, so why refer to it as that being? We don't know. So we have to assume this is something maybe out of the norm. But like I said, this is some headcanon mixed with some actual evidence to kind of come to this conclusion. Now, Lick and the devil get into this crazy fight. The devil's just yelling at him, Lightning Fang and Earth Shield, Blade Storm, and Be Crushed expansion. Okay, I know I'm using all these Naruto references, but I mean, there's a lot of Naruto parallels that we can use throughout this entire series. And it's not even a slight to the series. It's just, I think it's awesome. Naruto is one of my favorite series, and I'm glad that Tabata actually uses all of these crazy anime tropes, so common, but he does them so well, and I think that's important for writing. Like, it's gonna happen that parallels can be made from story to story, but if you do it correctly, it's really gonna define the way the story is told. So yeah, the demon's speaking all of these things into existence, and Lick is just batting these things away like it's nothing. He's still got that smug look on his face, like this is nothing, I'm licked. And then he says, be bound, and Lick is trapped in this spell, because the demon figures out that, hey, this demon dweller sword, it's good for absorbing magic, but it's ill-suited against physical attacks. So why don't I just use a physical attack and bind you, and then I'll kill you? And where the devil actually makes this giant spear drill-looking thing. It looks crazy that he's going to launch at Lick. And just in time, we get our bro Yami in the mix. Now, Yami, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent and say Yami is my favorite character in this series by far. Yami's presence is so perfect. He's got this Kakashi-like air about him, where he doesn't give too much of a crap about anything, but he instills knowledge. Almost every time you see him, he instills some type of knowledge into another character, and it's mind blowing. This guy has so much insight, and it really shows, how much he's actually learned from Julius just by looking and being taken under his wing when he was younger. And I think Yami's a super special character, but he shows up, and he actually clears up for some of the fans that didn't quite get it last chapter, why we didn't see Yami in the fight against Patriot, was that Nozel and Yami decided to split up and follow the two massive mana presences. So, of course, we saw Nozel go after Patriot, and Yami showed up at this fight. And just another side note, Nozel made such short work out of Patriot. That battle is the reason why I like Black Clover's fighting system probably the most. Because matchups are so important. And just because he beats Dark Elf Patriot doesn't mean that he's, stronger than elves and dark elves and all. It was just honestly a matchup combined with, experience that Nozel has. The matchup was just not there for Dark Elf Patriot, and it just so happened that Nozel was his natural enemy. Just like when Asta defeated the captain of the Purple Orcas, Asta happened to be his natural enemy. That doesn't mean Asta is captain level by any means, but it makes them cooler. I mean, no one else can say they've done such a thing at their level, So, Yami clears up where he's been, but he doesn't show up alone. He shows up with Elf Charlotte. Now, they actually come in kind of butting heads. They're enemies. You can see that, this Elf Charlotte doesn't know that the elves have been manipulated by this demon yet. But she does know that this demon is something that needs to be dead, and so does Yami. And Yami even says, I just don't even like the look of it, so let's kill it, which is great because Yami doesn't overthink things. It just is what it is, and he looks pretty evil. But I mean, on top of this, Yami says something that I think alludes to maybe a possible future with Charlotte. He says, "Don't even think of harming a hair on that body." Now, we've seen episodes where, it's clear that Charlotte has some heavy feelings for our boy Yami. And Yami he seems kind of aloof, but, I think he kind of knows what's going on. And it's just kind of going at his own pace. But I think this is him acknowledging that there are some deeper feelings for Charlotte there. And not just that's my work buddy, that's, not just another captain, that's someone I actually care for. So, I think it could be a possible reference to the future coupling, which is awesome. They would make such a great couple. But these two go ahead and free Lit. And this is why I think chapter 202 through 204 is going to get crazy. Because the devil has only fought Asta and Yuno. Now, while Asta and Yuno proved to be a pretty formidable duo against this devil didn't feel threatened enough to really move too much and to even use its newly acquired Grimoire. But he doesn't feel the need to use his Grimoire, and he lets them hit them, if anything. He just says heal, and he gets healed up. And then he leaves, and leaves Dark Elf Patriot to them. So now with Lit free, with two captains and one with an elf boost, this devil is going to have to use his Grimoire, because it's not going to be able to touch a Lit, for sure, with the things it's been throwing at him. And with the coordination that he even acknowledged that Yami has with Elf Charlotte, he is going to have to do something different. And that means he's going to have to pull out that Grimoire. And what's scary is that the demon still doesn't seem threatened, even with the three of them here on this battlefield. So it's going to be interesting how this turns out. As you get to know me as well, I'm such a horror tragedy fan when it comes to manga and anime. I think deaths really make a series, and if I want to see something out of this battle, I would want to see either Yami or Charlotte die. And like I said, Yami's my favorite out of everyone, but I think to spare people because of, you know, main character immunities and stuff, it's kind of BS, and it does take a bit away from the story, and it takes out that realistic aspect. And I kind of want this to keep it, and I think Yami's death in particular would spark so much change in a lot of the characters that we've come to know. And maybe that can be a separate video. Feel free to disagree with me. I mean, that's just my personal preference. But after Licht is freed, we get a flash forward to Finral, and Finral is being healed. He's all healed up. And then we get Nero pecking at his head. Finral opens his eyes and sees this. Nero. Nero is speaking. A bird. The bird is talking to Finral. Like, what? Like, we knew Nero was special. If you didn't think Nero was special, there's something wrong with you. But Nero, we knew something was up with this bird. It wasn't just a bird. It was helping Asta. It was coming up with the right times. And like, of course Nero was special, but we didn't expect him to just start talking to Finral, of all people, by the way. You know, if it would have talked to anyone, I'd assume it would have been Asta, maybe. Or even Noelle, but to Finral. But of course, we know, you know, with what Nero says, it makes sense as to why he's talking to Finral, because Finral can teleport him to the Demon Bones. Now, why does Nero want to go to the Demon Bones in the first place? This kind of goes back to my theory for Licht being that monster that we see in the opening scenes, because Licht is not fully awakened, and this is something that the devil mentioned, that he's doing well for not being fully here. And we also have to question whose body Licht is using. All the other elves are possessing another body, but we don't know who Licht is using. So I'm thinking Licht made some sort of failsafe, so that if this demon were to come back, that he'd come back as well. And I do believe the Wizard King made a failsafe as well. And this is where we get to who Nero could be. Now, I think Nero could be one of three things. I will start from the most likely to the least likely. I think most likely that Nero is the Wizard King. I think that we can look at Nero as some sort of like Horcrux, if you will. Just like Voldemort put bits of his soul into different people and things, so that if he died, well, it's a failsafe. He's not actually dead. He can come back this way under certain conditions. And I think the Wizard King and Licht, like I said, created these circumstances to make sure that the betterment of the world, the world can get better as time goes on without any interruptions from beings like this demon. Now, could this bird be the devil that we see from the bones? It's a possibility. I mean, if we look at Nero, and I did talk about physical appearances when it came to Licht and this demon, maybe this is the demon that Licht turned into, and just like we saw Dark Elf Patri have the battle inside, where Patri was still there, but he was really fighting, and then we saw when he was winning that war, he was half Dark Elf and half just regular elf. Maybe something like that happened, to where this is part of that demon's bones, and Nero's soul. It's just so convoluted. I think it's the least likely, but I mean, it could happen. And maybe this could also be someone we don't have too much familiarity with. Maybe someone like Tetia, who is the link between the three, right? Between the Lizard King and Link. And maybe Tetia made her own failsafe. We don't know a whole lot about Tetia, and I think this is one of the least likely answers as well. But I mean, we're going to find out within the next 10 chapters. I know we're not going to find out too soon, but we will definitely find out. Anyway, chapter 201 was probably the most eventful chapter in the series thus far, in my opinion. I personally can't wait for Thursday to roll around so I can nerd out on it and give my thoughts on here for you guys. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning into the very first video on this channel. It means so much. Please let me know in the comment section below what you'd like to see from this channel. If there's any anime you want me to watch and react to, manga you want me to discuss. I mean, the ball is really in your court. Just let me know. And like I said, I'll post links below to follow the Instagram and Facebook page. And please like and subscribe, support the channel. The more we can do that, the better content I can give you. And please be patient with me. I am still learning all this technology stuff. And I promise I'll get a good system up and running. But thank you so much for tuning in. Again, this is OATz the GOAT, signing out.